Welcome back. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about fractions and decimals. You've worked with fractions and decimals before, so it will be a lot of review in this lesson, but good news is that we're going to be able to use our calculators for a lot of it. So after this lesson, you should be able to simplify and operate with fractions. You should be able to convert mixed numbers into improper fractions, and you should be able to round decimals. So let's get started with some definitions. So what exactly is a fraction? We all know what they look like, but let's define it really well. So a fraction in general is how many parts of a whole. So what does this look like? Let's draw a picture. So here's my awesome circle. I'm going to split it up into 4 parts. Okay. And when I'm talking about a fraction, let's say that I have 3 pieces colored in. So there's 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. So we can label this fraction as 3 parts out of 4 total parts. So that gives us the fraction 3/4. Okay, because I had that one that was empty, so a total of 4 little semicircle triangles, and I shaded in 3 of them, so 3/4. So some examples of fractions, which I know that all of you know this, like 1/2, 3/5, etc. Those are all considered fractions. Okay, a mixed number is a type of fraction. So it's a type of fraction where it's an integer and whole number. Integer and fraction combined. Okay, so what do these look like? So for an example, if I have 1 2/3, okay, when we say that as something like 1 2/3. Okay, so that's a mixed number. Now, in this class, we don't really work with mixed numbers. We work with improper fractions. So an improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Okay, let's remember that if I have a fraction, like let's go back up to this 3/4, the 3 is going to be the numerator, and the 4 would be the denominator. If you have trouble remembering this, I would always say that the denominator starts with a D, and so does down. And down kind of reminds me of below. So down denominator, so the lower number is called the denominator. Okay. So we can even put here the numerator is the top and the denominator is the bottom. To help you remember that. We're going to be using numerator and denominator a lot in this class. Okay, so what are some examples of an improper fraction? Something like 5/3, or maybe 10/9, 10/9. Any type of fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator is an improper fraction. In this class, we only really work with fractions and improper fractions. We don't work with mixed numbers. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how we deal with a mixed number if we come across one. Okay, so our next step I want to talk about is simplifying a fraction. So when we simplify a fraction, we want to make sure that the numerator and the denominator are its lowest terms. So 6 divided by 42 is our first example of simplifying. In school, in middle school, in elementary school really, you learn that to simplify a fraction, you find a common factor and you pull that factor out, okay? So if I have 6 over 42, I know that each of them has a 6, so I can divide the top by 6, divide the bottom by 6, and I end up getting 1/7. Now, for a lot of us, fractions can be really challenging. It's like this one little extra step that you've learned that kind of can get away in these bigger ideas we're going to talk about in Algebra 1. So what I want us to remember, and this is going to be awesome for a lot of you, is that we can use our calculators. In fact, I'm going to write this differently. I'm going to say that the calculator is allowed. Okay, so what does this look like when we want to use the calculator? So B says 5 divided by 20. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to type in 5 divided by 20. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to get a decimal. Okay, now in this class, we don't use decimals very often. I want to simplify a fraction into a new fraction. So in order to do that, we're going to hit the math button right there, and then it's going to pop up this menu. And you see at the top, you've got fraction. You're going to hit enter. You're going to see that this says answer turn into fraction. Hit enter one more time, and your calculator is going to pop up whatever the fraction is. In this case, it's 1/4. So when I say 5 over 20, I can rewrite that as 1 over 4. So this is why I really need everyone to get a TI-83 or TI-84 graphing calculator, because you're going to want a calculator that helps you reduce these fractions if you don't want to do them by hand, which I'm assuming a lot of you do not want to do them by hand. So what about a negative number? We've got negative 24 divided by 8. Excuse me. So negative 24 divided by 8, the negative is just going to carry over. So I'm going to have that negative in front. You can put it in the calculator as well as the negative, so I can go back to my calculator and do negative 24. The negative button, I'm going to slow down. The negative button is right down here by the enter button. So negative and then 24 divided by 8, hit enter, and I get negative 3. So it's nice. That one didn't come out to a fraction, so I can just rewrite it as negative 3. Okay. I'm going to circle these for you guys so you really can see what these simplify to. Okay. It's always a good idea on your practice as well to circle your answers or put a box around them in some way so I can see for sure what your answers are. Okay. So that's simplifying fractions. You are allowed fractions. You are allowed to use your calculator. So now let's go back to what I said earlier about these mixed numbers. Okay. Mixed numbers, converting them into improper fractions. There's 3 steps to do that. Okay, you've got step 1, which is we're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. So in example A, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the 2 times the 7. And I'm going to end up getting, and I'll write this over here a little bit, 14, because 2 times 7 is 14. So that's step 1. Then step 2 is that you're going to add that number to the numerator. Okay. So what does that look like here? Well, now we've got 14 plus, so we're going to add here, multiply here. So what is 14 then plus 3? Okay, and then the last step is we're going to keep the denominator the same. So it's going to be 14 plus 3 all over 7. And when we simplify that, we're going to get 17 over 7. Because the numerator 14 plus 3 is 17. Keep the denominator 7. So 2 3/7, that's a mixed number, converts into 17 over 7, which is an improper fraction because 17 is bigger than 7. I want us only working with improper fractions, not mixed numbers. You won't see mixed numbers very often, but when you do, it needs to be converted into an improper fraction. So let's check out 2 more examples. Letter B, I'm going to do 5 times 2, which is going to give me 10. And then I'm going to add the 10 to 6 on top, keep the bottom as a 2. 10 plus 6 is 16. and I get 16 divided by 2. Now, something you're going to want to check for whenever you get a fraction as the answer to see if it can reduce, okay, or simplify. So I'm going to go back to my calculator if you're not sure, and we're going to type in 16, clear it out, 16 divided by 2. Hit enter. And what does it turn out to be? 8. Now, for a lot of us, we know that 16 divided by 2 is 8, but it really can't hurt in this class to always double check your answers with a calculator. Okay, so our answer to B is just 8. Lastly, letter C. It's got a negative in front, and negative in front of mixed numbers can be a little tricky and they trip students up. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you have a negative is carry that negative in front, okay? Then we treat the problem the same as we've done the previous problems. We multiply the 3 times 4, only we keep that positive. So we're just going to write 12. Add that to the numerator, that's the plus 2 here. All over, keep the denominator the same. When we do this, we're just going to carry the negative down. It's not negative 12 plus 2, it's just negative, and then whatever 12 plus 2 is, which is 14, all over 3. 14 divided by 3 does not come out to a whole number, so that's going to be my improper fraction. Okay, so that's simplifying fractions and converting mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay? Now let's get to the fun part. And this is operations with fractions, which means adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions. I do not expect you to do these things by hand. I truly don't. I am okay with you using a calculator anytime you see fractions in this class. So there's a couple important steps though when you use your calculator. And step 1 always needs to be put parentheses around the fractions. Okay, so when I look at example A, I'm going to go ahead and put little parentheses around each fraction. The calculator can't use order of operations unless it has parentheses around these numbers. It doesn't know it's a fraction otherwise. So this is super critical, and you're going to do this a lot in this class. Okay. The second step then is that we're just going to use the calculator to use the calculator for the operation that you're doing. Okay, and if we're not sure what I mean by operation, I'll give a little arrow here and say operation just means add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Those are operations. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use this calculator for the operation. What does this equal? So I'm going to go ahead in my calculator, I'm going to go back to it, and it's 1/3 plus 4/5. So I'm going to do parentheses button, 1 divided by 3, close my parentheses, and I'm adding, so I'm going to hit the plus sign, parentheses again, 4 divided by 5. So it's going to look almost identical to what you see on your paper. Okay, we're going to hit enter, and you're going to get some type of decimal, usually. Okay, so I'm not going to type my decimal in. So my third step, I'm going to leave the calculator there. Step 3 is just going to be reduce. Okay, and in this case, the calculator steps, like we talked about earlier, is you're going to hit math and then enter once and enter again. So math, enter, enter. So I'm going to go back to my problem. I'm going to hit the math button, which is underneath the green alpha button here. Hit enter again, and I get 17 divided by 17/5. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to say, okay, letter A equals 17/5. Okay, so those are your steps, your basic steps for simplifying fractions. So let's try letter B. So the first step is I'm going to put parentheses around 6/7. I'm going to keep the minus sign out of the parentheses and put parentheses around the 13/4. Go to my calculator, parentheses 6 divided by 7. And now I'm going to use the subtraction sign and do 13 divided by 4. So it should look just like how your paper looks. Hit enter. That is a wild decimal. So definitely math enter here. So it's negative 67 over 28. Now those look like kind of big numbers. And in this class, you're going to be working with numbers that aren't always small. You might be working with bigger numbers. So negative 67 over 28. We're going to put some faith in our calculators here. Oh, did I write 62? I meant to write 67. There we go. 67 over 28. Okay. All right, so that's addition and subtraction. Let's try multiplication. So we've got this little dot right here. Let me draw that a little better. That little dot right there means multiply. You're going to see that dot a lot. The steps don't change though. We're still going to put the 1/3 and the 4/7 in parentheses. Go to our calculator. So 1/3. Hit the times button, and you'll notice that on a lot of calculators, it replaces that X with a dot. We are not going to use the X to write multiply. We're going to use the dot. So 1/3 times 4/7. Hit enter, hit math, enter, and I get 4 over 21. That's multiplication. Division, same thing, 1/3 and 5 over 2, but now we're dividing. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. 1/3. Now I'm going to hit my division symbol, and it's going to show as like a little slash, but make sure it's not in the parentheses, and then 5 divided by 2. Enter. Again, that's a decimal, so math, enter, gives us 2 over 15. Okay. That's much better without doing it by hand. I hope you agree. Okay. The next 4 examples are kind of have unique situations. Okay, so the unique situation in E is that we have a negative in front. So the way we handle this is we're going to put the negative 4/5 in parentheses and the 1/2 in parentheses. So we're going to leave that minus sign in between. The way we put this into our calculator is we're going to use this negative button down by the enter sign. So I'm going to hit negative. Well, first, I brought the first step. We're going to put it in parentheses. So parentheses, and then negative 4 divided by 5, parentheses, minus 1 divided by 2. One word of warning, do not use the minus button as that negative in front of 4/5. The calculator will give you an error. If that happens, just come on up. I'm happy to explain and show you what's going on, but just as a word of caution, that's why you'll get that error. I'm going to hit enter, hit math, enter, and I get negative 13 over 10. Letter F, I'm going to type it in just like I see it. I've got parentheses already there, so negative 3/5, parentheses, negative 3/5, and then I can just put it in as another set of parentheses. I don't even need to put a symbol there. And the reason I don't need to put a symbol there, I'll tell you in a second. Let's finish this. Math, enter. I get 6 over 35. So I'm going to put 6 over 35 here. 6. Now, the reason I didn't need to put a symbol in there is because the calculator knows that when you've got 2 sets of parentheses bumped up right next to each other, that operation is multiplication. And the calculator knows that that's multiplication. There's no harm in adding in a little dot if you want to. You can do that if you want to remind yourself, hey, I'm multiplying here. Okay. Letter G is negative 2 plus 3/8. The part with negative 2, the part with negative 2 is that you don't need to put that negative 2 in parentheses, but you do need to put the 3/8 in parentheses. So plus 3 divided by 8, math, enter, and I get negative 13 over 8. Let me change color. Okay. And finally, letter H has a bunch of negatives in it. So how do we handle this? Well, like we've done the others, put parentheses around the negative 6/7. This negative 6 needs parentheses because there's 2 signs next to each other. Okay, we know that 2 negatives make a positive. We don't need to worry about that though right now because we have our calculator that will help us figure that out. So parentheses negative 6/7, close your parentheses, then hit the minus sign, open a new set of parentheses, and now hit the negative sign, and then close your parentheses. You're going to get that decimal, math, enter, enter, get 36/7. Okay, so we're going to go back. We get, what did I say we got there? 36/7. Okay, so not so bad. I don't expect you to do these things by hand. Okay, all right, moving on. The last thing in this lesson we're going to talk about is rounding decimals. So we need to remember what our places are for rounding. So in a number, we've got different places that the numbers fall into. And we call the first, this is all your decimal point. Start simple. This is your decimal point. The number 7 here is in your ones place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If there was no decimals, no other numbers around it, we call that a ones. Then the number before the 7, we call the tens place. Okay. On the other side of the decimal, that place on the right side of the decimal point, we call that the tenths place. After that, we call it the hundredths. And then the third number after the decimal is called the thousandths. We're not going to work past these numbers. Okay, if we had another number here, that would be your hundreds place. Okay, but we're not going to typically round there, so these are the ones I really need you guys to know. All right, so if we're going to round to the nearest tenth, rounding is when you take the number and you figure out whether, hey, I need this number to go bigger or I need this number to stay the same. So let's make a little note here that if we have 5 and bigger, we round up. The next number rounds up. If we have a 4 or below, I'm not going to say round down, I'm going to say we're going to keep the value, because we're not going to lower the number. We're only either going to increase it or keep it the same. So example A says round to the nearest tenth. So I like to underline my tenth place, look to the number to the right, and I like to draw an arrow to it, because that's telling me, hey, is the 6 bigger than 5? Yep, it sure is. So I'm going to keep the 4, keep the decimal, but now I'm going to take that 5 and make it a 6. And I want to stop at the 10th place. So, and for A, B, C, and D here, your answer should stop at the 10th place because that's where you're rounding. Okay. Example B, I'm going to look at the 10th place and underline it. It's a 4. The number next to it is a 2. Now that is 4 or below. That's a number that is not 5 and bigger. So that means my answer is 0.4. I'm just going to keep the 4. Let's make that a box. Keep it the same. Okay. Letter C, underline the 0. Take a look at that 5. Does that 5 make that 0 go up? It sure does. So I'm going to have 1.1. You only increase it by 1 digit. So if it's a 1, it would increase to a 2. 2 would increase to a 3, etc. This one is a little trickier. What I would do is I underline the 9. I draw on a little 0 here because it's invisible, but it's there. Does the 0 round that 9 up or keep it the same? It keeps it the same. So 3.9. That's the basics of rounding. It's really important that you read the directions here because it's going to tell you what value it wants you to round to. So in the example 4, now it's saying round to the nearest hundredth. So now I'm going to go to the hundredths place, underline it, look at the number next to it, and ask myself, does that round up or stay the same? 6 is bigger than 5, so I keep the 68, keep that 0.5, but make that 1 now a 2. Example B, 1 is in my hundredths place. It's got a 3 next to it, so that keeps the number the same, 0.51. C, a hundredths place is right here, that's second 0. 7, does that round that 0 up? It sure does. It's bigger than 5, so 0.01. That 0 becomes a 1. In the last example for hundredths place, underline that 7. Ask yourself, does 0 make that 7 and 8? It does not, so 9.67 is my answer. And then finally, let's look at my nearest whole number. So whole number, be really careful. Whole number means the same thing as your ones place. So that's the number on the left of the decimal sign. So in this case, I'm going to underline the 9 because that's my ones place, and ask myself if that 4 rounds this 9 up. It does not, so my answer just becomes 19. And that is a whole number, right? We talked about whole numbers in the previous lesson, so 19 is a whole number, so I know my answer at least fits the bill for being a whole number. Letter B, underline that 6 right there. Ask yourself, does the 6 on the other side round it up or stay the same? 6 is bigger than 5, so it rounds up to 7. 517. Letter C, underline the 6. Ask yourself, does the 1 round it up? It does not, so the 6 stays the same, and we leave the whole rest of this part out. That just goes away. We don't need it, as it didn't have anything to do with rounding to the whole number. It just is extra values we don't need for our answer. And then letter D, here's 0 is my ones. Does 5 round that 0 up or stay the same? It rounds it up to positive 1. So that's fractions and decimals and rounding. Good luck on your practice. And again, like we did in the previous lesson, if you need help or needed to pause the video and come ask questions, please do so. It will really help you master this target much faster. Good luck.